Hello everyone. So here I am again to do another exercise. This time this is grade 6 theory. And yeah, we're going to do this 4-part harmonization. So yeah, let's get right into it. Grade 6 theory has a couple of different things to grade 5. First of all, you want to demonstrate your knowledge of 5/7. So yeah, try to use that chord as much as possible, the dominant 7th. Then there's also some interesting chord progressions. So we have 1 5C 1B instead of 1 7B 1B, and in reverse. Of course, there's also the introduction of the 1C chord, so you definitely want to show that. And also, if you are familiar with 3, I personally wouldn't use 3 as much. It's a bit risky to use, but it's quite nice if you're using it at a cadence sometimes. So 3B 5/7/1, that's a nice chord progression, or 5/3/6. So you can use 3 sometimes. And with 1C, so there's also passing 1C. So you've got 4 1C 4B, and that in reverse. So yeah, you've got quite a few options. And then also you need to demonstrate understanding of modulations. So as you'll see in this exercise, there will probably be quite a few modulations. I can see the E flat there, so that's definitely a modulation there. So definitely want to demonstrate your understanding of modulations. And also, as you can see in the exercise, it's also talking about suspensions. So having a couple of those will be good as well to demonstrate understanding. And we also have F sharp at the end. This is in D minor with the flat, right? So we know this is in D minor. There's a B flat there, but it also does end in an F sharp, so that might be hinting at a thing called a tierce duplicity, which is when we have a piece in D minor that ends in D major. And it's a common way of sort of finishing the piece. So yeah, let's get into it. So enough chit chat. So this is in D minor. Let's write out our chord ID. So we have D F A, E G B, G B D, A C. Well, this is D minor, so let's just remind ourselves it's C sharp, B D F. And yeah, so when doing this, just remember, like when we're doing these modulations, we've got to make sure that when we do modulate, we will also keep our accidentals. It's really easy to lose those accidentals. Okay, so I guess the first thing we can really sort of do is think about what keys are we actually modulating to, right? So for example, and one way to do this, just to write it out, is just to write out our 6 related keys. So we have D minor, we have G minor, and we have A minor. And then we have F major, B flat major, and C major, right? So this first 2 bars, probably we're just in D minor, right? Just keep it straightforward. And here, well, da da dee da da, maybe we're in F major here, right? It's possible to go to F major there. So as many times as we can modulate, we should modulate, right? So this would probably be some form of a, 5/7 chord. Even maybe 1C 5/7/1, that could work in F major. Then yeah, here we can see there's a sequence, right? So da da dee da da dee da 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 dee da 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 da. That's pretty clear. It's a sequence. And thinking about our keys, well, this is E flat. There's an E flat, right? So it's definitely not D minor or F major. It's most likely going to be B flat major here, right? With the E flat. Definitely not A minor, no B flat or E flat. And then here, da 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 dee da 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 da. It's a whole sort of, it's 2 notes lower, so it's very likely to be G minor. Cool. And then da dee da 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 dee da. It looks like we're back in D minor here, right? And the whole thing, the rest of it's all in D minor, so should be pretty straightforward. Okay, let's put in our chord ID. This is possibly most likely going to be, 2. Well, it could be 2B, right? It could be 4, right? So we'll just think about what we might do there. 5/7, absolutely. 1. We've got a couple of these 3/2/1s, 3/2/1. So 3/2/1 at a cadence is a very good indicator of 1C 5/7/1. For example, you see at the end of that first row, it's 5/4/3 in this case, right? So in F major, the 5th note is C. 5/4/3, if you ever see that, it's 1C 5/7/1. Or if you see 3/2/1, that's also very clearly going to be 1C571. So even here, we could use a 1C571. It's a bit weird to put a 1C571 all the way at the very start of the piece. Another option you have for 3-2-1, like we have here, 3-2-1. When you have something like this, it's a very good opportunity to use 1, 5C, 1B. And you'll be able to see that because you're just going to go in reverse, right? So D, E, and F, just in contrary motion. This will be 1, 5C, 1B. That's a very good chord progression. It's also a really good way of demonstrating understanding, right? 5C, right? We learned about the second inversion in grade 6, so it's a good idea to try to use as many of these C's as possible, right? Of course, correctly, but, you know, as many as possible. We're seeing a couple of more of these, right? We've got 1, 2, 3 in this case. 1, 2, 3. Another 1, 2, 3. Now, of course, this is a sequence, so whatever we do for the B flat major, we're going to have to do for the G minor. Okay, but 1, 2, 3, again, we're going to go 3, 2, 1 in reverse. It's a good way to do that. So 1B, 5C, 1. This will be 1B, 5C, 1 in G minor. We can already pop our notes in, right? So this will be a D here to a C to a B flat. Okay, and then this will be a B flat to a to a G. So that just works really, really well. Right, and I will just show you an example of how to sort of harmonize this, right? So, for example, here we can just use Fs, right? F, 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 right? And then what's the missing note? D, F, B flat. We need a B flat, A, B flat, for example, right? A very typical way of sort of harmonizing this 1B, 5C, 1. And in reverse, right? In reverse, it would look like this, right? So we'll do it for the top, right? It would be like D, C, C sharp, remembering in minor keys we're raising the 7th, right? And then the missing note is A, and then this time it's A, A, A. You'll remember in grade 5, it would be A, G, A going down. And you can still do it here, but you want to demonstrate 5C, right? So use 1, 5C, 1B. So, and again, B flat major, we've done it for B flat major, so let's just do it for G minor, right? We're going to have exactly the same thing, and you want to do exactly the same thing for sequencing because that's just, you know, you want to have the same thing as a sequence. If your sequence has different things, it's not really a sequence. So definitely like this, and again, we're in G minor, we've got to raise the 7th, right? And again, if there are any E flats we use, then we've got to be careful of that as well. Right, in this B flat major and the G minor section. Okay, cool. So those are our cadences. Oh, we've got another one of these here, right? Actually, in fact, we've got one here as well. This is actually also 3, 2, 1. We've got an extra G in a sense that they're sort of suspending across here, but we've just got this offbeat, and yeah, we have these unaccented passing notes. We can actually still treat it in the same way. So 1, 5C. 1B. So the D would be here, right? And then the E would be here, and the F would be there. So we can treat it absolutely exactly the same way. A, right? D, C sharp, remembering the 7th, and D, right? Actually, this is also a 1, 5C, 1B. It doesn't look quite like it. Everything's just sort of offset by a quarter note, a half note, right? The quaver. But yeah, definitely still a 3, 2, 1 there. Okay, so actually, and why don't we just do the last cadence? So we're already doing all of these cadences as well. We have a B flat to a G, B flat to a G. Now, looking at our chord, that's a pretty much guaranteed to be a 4, right? We have a B flat and G, so we could do a 2, right? We could do a 6, 2B, 5, 7, 1, but probably easier to just do 4 and 4B, right? 4 and 4B, going in contrary motion. Yeah, so G to G to B flat. We'll probably put the B flat down here, right? Right, and then these notes can just be the same. Noting that this D is already there, so we can't overlap that. So we've got to be careful with the Ds. That's the highest we can go is D. And then let's just double the G, right? So that looks quite good to me. And then 5, 7. So 5, 7, I'm going to have an A at the bottom. Right, and then C sharp here, and then I'm going to put an A here, Now, it's a bit difficult to do the 5/7 here because they've used the third here already. So we're not going to use the seventh note, because when we're using 5/7, we want the seventh to fall. Just like we want the leading note to raise, the leading note to resolve upwards to the tonic, we also want the 5/7, the seventh note. In this case, if we had put a seventh, it would be A, C sharp, E, G. That G, we want that G to fall to an F. Now the F, or in this case an F sharp, because it's a tierce to Picardy, but the F sharp has already been used in the soprano line, so we can't really use a seventh note in the 5/7. So in fact, this is really more just a 5, right? This is actually just a 5, which not ideal, but it's okay, right? And we'll put a D here to resolve that C sharp, and then we'll just finish this very straightforward, right? So that's sort of the last line almost done. And now let's think about what's happening in the rest of this piece, right? Now, what you'll find is that a lot of the time we can get by with harmonizations, 4 parts, with just your fundamental chords, 1, 4, and 5. You will have a couple of 2s and 6s at times, but you can get away with a lot of 1, 4, and 5. And just by looking at the chords on the side, you can sort of see why, right? Because 1 has D, F, A, and 5 has all of the other notes, right? D, so it has A, C sharp, E, and G. So that's already covering your whole scale. And then you've got 4s, giving a little bit more variety. So you can really get quite far with just 1, 4, and 5/7. And so, you want to use as many of those chords as possible because they're strong chords, right? So let's look at the start, for example, right? Probably the first chord, we probably want to put a 1 chord, right? So putting a 1 there seems to be a sensible idea. And then I've got D, da, 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 so maybe a 5, and then a 5/7B, that seems to work. The 5/7B being the C sharp, which will resolve into the D, right? So this C sharp here, 5/7B being the leading note, right? So yeah, we will learn 5/7 in grade 6. We also learn inversions of 5/7. And so knowing 5/7 and 5/7B, and also I don't really use 5/7C that often, but definitely one chord that is very often overlooked is 5/7D. It's a great chord, and if you can use that, you're really demonstrating your understanding here. So 5/7B, great chord, 5/7D, even better, but just use as many 5/7s as possible, right? So yeah, often you'll see 5 followed by a 5/7 because it's not quite finished, it's still in 5 land. And the D here, okay? So actually, why don't we just finish this part? Probably put the F here, E here, E here, going down to a D. That seems pretty sensible. Then we'll have an A here, right? Oh no, we actually won't have an A there. Let's put a D here. And then C sharp, maybe? Don't have a leading note yet, right? And so here you'll see, because it's a C sharp, even though the next chord, it's not resolving. We can't have another C sharp, right? Because 2 C sharps is definitely not good. 2 leading notes would have to resolve to 2 tonics, right? Which would be consecutives. Or you'd have one of the leading notes resolving down to the 5th. It's not ideal. But you can see we're going from 5 to 5/7B. So we're still in the realm of 5. This C sharp can now fall to the 5th, because even though it hasn't been resolved, it's sort of been passed to the bass, and then the bass line resolves. So it's quite a sensible approach. So I prefer for my leading notes to be resolved. It can fall to the 5th, it's legal, right? So if you had a 5/1 and your leading note fell to the 5th, it is technically speaking legal, but I like my leading notes to be resolved, unless if I'm going from 5 to 5/7. Then I'm happy for the leading note to just be passed to another note. This C sharp could be passed to an E or an A, no problems. Okay, great. Let's have a look at the next section. So now we're going from D minor to F major. So we sort of need some form of a link, right? So D, we could put a 4 there. Like I said, fundamental chords are good, right? So it could be a 1. We just had a 1, so having another 1 seems a bit, you can do it, right? But let's put a 4, right? That seems interesting. 4. And 4 in GBD, right? 4 would match with a 2 chord in F major. So we have a F major here starting. This is D minor, right? And so we have a 4 chord in F major, which is GBD, and that corresponds to a 2 chord in F major. So that just carries on here, right? So like this. We don't have much of a choice. Again, there's this huge sort of octave jump in the soprano line, so we don't really have a choice. We have to put a D there. So we're doubling the fifth. Doubling the fifth is fine, right? Not ideal, but it's okay. We don't want to double the third. The only time we double the third is when we go from 5 to 6, and we have an interrupted cadence. Then we can double the third. And also, if you're using a 2B chord, you can double any third. That's also fine. But yeah, in 4, you definitely don't want to double the third. Okay, so now we're sort of in this bridging chord where we've got 4 and 2, right? And let's try to really indicate that this is actually F major. So F major would have a C natural, right? So why don't we put a 1 chord here, right? A 1 chord in F major. Then that would be an F, and this would be a C, and this would be an F. So we're really cementing, all right, this is F major, right? We have a C natural now. Great. And then what can we do with B flat? So B flat could be a 4, could be a 2, 2B. Let's do the cadence first, and we'll see what we'll do there. The cadence will be 1C, 5, 7. And so 1C, 5, 7, you have a characteristic doubling of the C. Doubling of the dominant, the tonic chord for that 5, 7. So in this case, the fifth note, right? The fifth note of F major. You always have a consecutive octaves here. So we have the two C's in the soprano and the 2 C's in the bass. I already have that. And then we'll fill in the other notes. F to E, A to G. Okay. So the bass line probably is indicating to us that having a 4B might be a sensible choice, right? With a D here. Right? That seems BDF. 4 chord is BDF, right? So there are definitely more options than just those. You can definitely do some other things that you could probably do something else, like a 2B, right? Yeah, but I've chosen to use the 4B. That way my bass line is not jumping around too much, and I'm still staying within the sort of rules of, well, not the rules, but the sort of conventions of, let's try to use as many 1s and 4s and 5s as possible. Okay. Actually, this chord, you can't use a 2B. 2B would be consecutives in the bass and the tenor, and actually, bass in the soprano. And same goes for 4. Can't do the 4 because, again, consecutives in the bass and the soprano. So you actually don't have that much choice. 4B seems to be a sensible choice there. Okay, so, and then here we can go to a F, right? Our leading note E is resolving, right? And then I think we don't have much of a choice here, right? We'll just 2 Fs. Okay. Great. So let's continue. And now we have these sequences, and we have to do whatever we do for the B flat, we're going to do for the G minor. So again, we have da, dee, da, da. So that's sort of telling me this is a 5 and a 5, 7, because this is all within, in B flat major, the 5 chord is B flat, D, and F, right? So we have an F and an E flat, which is the 5, 7, and then another C. So F, E flat, and C are all 5. So this is really telling me, okay, this is a 5 chord, right? So in fact, and here I was saying before, like, you want to use 5, 7, D. This is a very underrated chord. So we can do that here actually, right? So F to an E flat, and you can see the 5, 7, D, the 7th note is being resolved in the bass to the 3rd of the chord, the D, right? So it's really a very beautiful progression. And then, we can put a 2B here, right? So in B flat major, 2 is C, E flat, G, right? So, and we have a C there, so that seems to be okay. I'm going to put an E flat here, right? And let's just harmonize the rest of this. So A, to B flat, resolving to the B flat. So again, I'm choosing A there because we have a B flat coming up. So I want my leading note to be resolved. What's the note I'm missing? I'm missing an F here, another F here, right? So nice and steady alto line there. Okay, and what else do we have? 2B chord. So like I said, it was C, E, G, right? So I've got a C, I've got an E flat, so I need a G and a C. So let's put the G here, put the C here, right? Let's chuck in a sneaky passing note here. That seems a good idea. Great, that looks good to me. Of course, we're checking for consecutives all the way through, right? So the same rules apply. No consecutives, no overlapping, that sort of stuff still applies. But I don't see any, so it looks okay. And yeah, like I said, we're going to do exactly the same thing for the G minor section, right? So we're going to be a fourth apart here. Actually, this will be an E flat now, right? And then this is going to be 2 notes lower. C, D, C, and a sixth above. Ta-da, to F sharp. Got to make sure we remember that. Another F sharp, we don't need another sharp there. Carry through. And then the alto line is just coming down by 1. Very straightforward, right? So once you've done it for one, you just copy for the other, right? It's very, very convenient. And it will sound quite nice. Nice. All right. So now, we only have 1 bar left. How convenient. So let's see, what are we going to put for this? Well, we're back in D minor, right? So we could put a 1 here, and a 5, and a 5, 7, B. Right? Very similar to the start. So it would be D, A, C sharp, right? And then I'm going to just put an A here and a D here. That seems okay. And a C sharp here, A here. Again, I've got my C sharp is not going to be resolved because we're still in 5/7. I'm just going to pass it up to an E this time. So I was saying C sharp can go up or go down. It's fine. We're still in 5. And keep an A down here. Okay, great. So that's all done now. And actually, I realized we haven't done any suspensions. So let's put a suspension. Well, let's put some passing notes first. So we can put an E here. Typically, I wouldn't use the leading note because we're in F major. The leading note's an E. Typically, I wouldn't use the leading note as a passing note, but I think it should sound quite nice there. Like I say to my students, if you're not sure if the passing note is going to sound good, you'd rather not put it in, but I'm pretty sure it'll sound good there. Again here, I'm going to put a B natural here and use the melodic minor scale as a passing note at the bottom. Yeah, I think that seems fine. So put in a couple of passing notes, you should do that. And then, yeah, let's do some suspensions, right? So suspensions, essentially, you're just going to delay one of the notes, right? So for example, this E natural, right? We can just keep it a little bit longer, like this. And that will be completely fine, just like that, right? And then typically I would use the sort of safest way to do this is to use the 7th of a 5/7 and suspend it across the bar line. So we can actually do that with our 5/7Ds and a 1B. So for example, you would do something like this, right? You would put the E flat here, right? And then put a D there and suspend across the bar line. And again, this is a sequence. I'm going to do the same thing here. Across the bar line. Okay. That's enough suspensions. You don't have to put suspensions everywhere, right? So yeah, that would totally be fine. And then the other thing I would add on this is, we can't do it here in this question, but sometimes if you've got a really, really long, like imagine if this piece, instead of ending on an F sharp, it ended on a D, and it was a held D for 3 beats. Like this held F sharp, it is a held D. What you can actually do is sometimes you can use a 1, 4, C, 1 as a ending, which is again, another way to really demonstrate your understanding of Cs, right? 4C. It's a really sort of beautiful way you would finish the piece. So yeah, you can, if you have any questions, let me know, but that's another way you can finish the piece. But we can't do that here because we've just got an F sharp here. You would need the note that they give you to be the tonic note, and then you can go 1 note up and 1 note down, 1 note up and 1 note down. So yep, then after this, you would certainly check for consecutives, voice on voice, and then check if you've missed any accidentals. I don't think I've missed any accidentals. Yep, and then if you have an opportunity to, I would very strongly recommend you to play it on the piano to see what it sounds like. Sometimes it doesn't sound quite good, right? So, but you try to fix it there. But general sort of principles apply. Try to stay relatively stepwise. You can see I haven't really jumped around at all with the alto line or the tenor line. The bass has jumped a little bit, but relatively stepwise as well. No consecutives, consecutive fifths, consecutive octaves. No in a minor key is really easy to do these augmented jumps. For example, so in our G minor case, if my E flat had gone up to an F sharp, that would be quite awkward. So you'd want your E flat to fall. So this sort of way of harmonizing is a bit safer. In grade 6, use as many 5/7s as possible. Demonstrate your understanding of 1C, 5C, 1 5C, 1B, 5/7B. These sorts of things are very good to show in your paper. So yeah, that's all I wanted to say about this one.